Hi friends, I'm Ashley, and I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I think what we're going to talk about is going to be very helpful to you no matter where you are on your faith journey. It's something we all need to be reminded of. But before I dive in, we need to talk about puppies. Random, I know. But I have a reason. See, take a look at the cutest puppy on the entire planet. Her name is Rain, and she is a Weimaraner and the cutest puppy, right? Look at her ears. Do you just squeeze them like that? But let's back up a little bit more because Rain hasn't always looked like this. She actually used to look like this. Can you even handle the cuteness? Look at those blue eyes. Isn't it amazing to see the way puppies grow? And just like Rain, most things in life go through a transformation of some kind. They start out as one thing and eventually they grow into something else. In other words, they change over time. And the same is true for all of us. Humans change over time. Just like our bodies change as we grow, so does the way we see ourselves. And if you're anything like me, something shifted as I've gotten older. And suddenly, I'm more aware of the way other people see me. I became more aware of the way I looked and the way I felt about it. And that kind of changed everything for me, including the way I saw myself. Maybe you haven't experienced this yet, and it's normal if you haven't. But because you're a human, chances are the way you see yourself will change at some point. Or maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about because you've experienced this before too. The reality is, this happens to all of us. We're constantly getting messages about the way we look from so many places. Places like our friends in the comment section on social media, the opinions and words from our family members, the pictures we see on our For You page, the athletes or influencers we want to look like, the pressure our coaches put on us, the way we're compared to our siblings, the way doctors talk to us about our bodies, the things we learn in health class at school. All of this stuff adds up to give us an awareness of our bodies and the way people view them. In other words, whether it's good or bad, it gives us what we call a body image. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. Now, before we go on, let me stop here and make sure we're all on the same page. When I say the phrase body image, I simply mean how you see yourself when you look in the mirror or picture yourself in your mind. It includes things like what you believe about your own appearance, whether it's accurate or not, how you feel about different aspects of your body, including things like your height, your shape, or your weight, and how comfortable you feel in your body. Body image is both physical and mental, and whether we realize it or not, it's something we're all developing as we grow up. We're taking in messages starting at a young age that can impact the way we see ourselves. And eventually, if we're not careful, those messages can cause us to develop a negative body image. In other words, it can make us start to dislike or even hate the way we look. And that isn't a healthy place to be. The truth is that dealing with body image is a human thing. Every single person, adults included, are facing a struggle with body image in some way or another. Our bodies, our height, our hair, our weight, our build, our skin tone, our physical limitations, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing. Body image is something we're all thinking about. We're always considering the way we see ourselves and the way we think other people see us too. But why do we care? If it's gonna happen to all of us as we grow up anyway, why is it a big deal? Well, before we talk about why it's important, I want you to know that you're amazing. You're amazing. You are amazing just as you are. And I want you to think the same about yourself. Body image matters because we know this to be true. Our actions follow our thoughts. What we think about how we look in our minds will eventually influence the way we treat our bodies. The longer we let negative thoughts about our bodies sit in our minds, the more likely we'll be to make choices or even take actions to change our bodies. And those actions aren't always helpful. In fact, those negative thoughts can eventually lead to some really harmful choices when it comes to our bodies. But what if we can shift those thoughts before they lead to actions? If we can change the way we think about and see ourselves now, it will not only help us develop a better, healthier image of ourselves, but it will help us avoid making decisions or taking actions that may actually hurt us in the long run. So, how do we do it? How do we tackle those negative thoughts about who we are and how we're made? To help us, we're gonna look back at a real person who lived with real struggles and real issues, just like us. His name is David, and I think he's one of the most interesting people we can read about in history. You see, David experienced a lot of changes in his life. He started out as a shepherd and grew up to be a king. I mean, pretty cool story, right? Along the way, David faced a lot of ups and downs, and because of that, he struggled with a lot of negative thoughts about himself and his life. Remember, he was human, just like us. And the good news is, we can read about the way David dealt with those thoughts in the letters, poems, and songs he wrote in the Bible. Today, we're gonna look at a verse from one of those writings that I think will help us navigate the negative thoughts we have in our minds. So let's read together. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Here, David started with a prayer. Why? Well, I think it's because just like you and me, he had real human struggles, and those struggles came with a lot of negative or anxious thoughts. But rather than just ignore them or try to deal with them on his own, David took them to God. He wanted God's help to see where he might be holding on to some anxious, negative thoughts in his mind. And honestly, I think that's the best place any of us can start. When it comes to the negative thoughts we might be thinking about who we are or the way we look, the best thing we can do is ask for God's help to not only recognize them, but to deal with them. And it doesn't end there. Take a look at the next verse. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Don't miss this. David's prayer shows us that it's more than just finding our negative thoughts. It's learning to recognize them for what they are, offensive. Now, that may sound intense, but really, the negative thoughts we think about ourselves, they're offensive. They're offensive to us, and they're offensive to God, who made us and loves us just as we are. When we think things over and over again, like, I'm way too skinny, I'm too fat, I don't like my hair, I don't like my skin, I wish I had more muscle, why do I still look like I'm in elementary school? What we're really doing is thinking things that are offensive. I mean, if somebody else said any of those things to us, we would be offended, right? Well, the same is true when we think them about ourselves. We're allowing offensive, negative thoughts to take up space in our minds, and like we said before, eventually those thoughts can lead to harmful actions. They can cause us to not love ourselves the way we are. So, what do we do? Well, look back at the way David finished the prayer. Lead me in the way everlasting. Everlasting means something that lasts forever. So when David said the way everlasting, he was asking God to lead him towards something better that would last forever. In other words, he was asking God to lead him toward better thoughts and the better life that God offers all of us. You see, as humans, we naturally think about ourselves in a certain way. We tend to believe the negative, anxious, offensive thoughts we think about our bodies are normal. It's a way of thinking that can leave us overwhelmed with thoughts about how we look and all kinds of ideas about how to change them. A way that tells us we need to be or look different than we are and do whatever it takes to become that person. But God has a better way that will lead us toward a better image of ourselves, a better way to handle the struggles we might face, and ultimately, a better life. God's way encourages us to do this. Be kind to yourself. There's a better life God offers us, and it includes kindness to ourselves and to others. It means we stop thinking hurtful, harmful things about who we are and how we're made. It means remembering that we were made in God's image and that God made each one of us unique. We can start to replace the harmful, offensive thoughts we may be having about our bodies by asking God to help us think kind thoughts, make kind choices, and choose kind words to speak to ourselves. Does it mean we'll always love our bodies? Probably not. As humans, this is gonna be a struggle even as we grow and change. But it does mean that with God's help, we can begin to change the way we see ourselves over time. It means we can learn to be kind to ourselves. This all sounds like a good idea, but how do we actually begin to be kind to ourselves? Well, let's start right now. First, I want you to notice what you're thinking about yourself. Ask God to help you see the negative thoughts you're repeating about your body or the way you look. What harsh or harmful words or phrases are on repeat in your mind when you think about your body image? Next, be curious about where those negative thoughts are coming from. What's contributing to the not so great thoughts you might be thinking about yourself? Maybe they come from spending a lot of time on social media or from things other people have said to you over the years. Maybe you think those negative thoughts even more when you're feeling tired or disappointed or rejected. Or maybe someone or something else is adding to the offensive thoughts in your mind. Be curious to figure out where those thoughts are coming from. Then, remember, you can choose to be kind to yourself instead. Tackling negative thoughts isn't just about knowing they're there, it's about replacing them with kindness. So, when you catch yourself thinking something negative about your body, try to replace it with something kind instead. Replace the negative thoughts with the truth that you are God's creation and God made you exactly the way you are. And remember, kindness isn't just about the words you say, it's also about doing what's good for your body. It's about doing what's good for you. So maybe being kind to yourself starts with replacing those negative thoughts, but then it leads to some positive action, like unfollowing the account that makes you feel bad about yourself, or maybe going for a walk, or making yourself a snack. Maybe it's giving your body a chance to rest, or maybe it's setting boundaries around who you listen to or talk to about the way you look. Whatever it is for you, start by replacing those negative thoughts with kindness toward yourself, and then choose things that build you up rather than tear you down. I recognize this stuff may be a pretty big deal for some of you more than others right now. Maybe you're really struggling to be kind to yourself. Maybe you have been struggling for a while. Your negative thoughts about your body may already be leading you towards some harmful choices. If that's you, I want to encourage you to talk to your group leader or your parent or guardian or grandparent or another trusted adult today. These adults are safe people you can share your struggles with. They're people who love you and want to help you see and treat yourself the way you deserve. So please consider opening up to one of them today. Remember, be kind to yourself. I know middle school can be hard. I know there are so many pressures and messages and struggles that impact the way you see yourself. But I also know that God made each and every single one of us. I know God loves us and wants us to love ourselves too. So today, I'd love for you to join the conversation with your group about how you can begin to see yourself the way God sees you. Groups are a great space to be honest about your struggles and to encourage others who are struggling too. Because when we're honest about our struggles, we remind each other that we're not the only ones dealing with something like this. I know that talking about topics like body image can be difficult, especially when it feels like our body image has power over us. But when we talk about it with people we trust and who love us, it takes away some of that power and we can begin to see ourselves the way that God sees us.